Anand, you look dapper today, man. I mean, what is the reason behind you looking dapper, man? You look dapper.
How, how, how would you let go on me?
How would I rate my own English?
Many people are eager to improve their English, but, but in your opinion, is a better and then our level.
There are many things one can do to improve English. But before I answer the question, let's just think about how we learned our native language, which is Hindi in my case, right? Uh, I'm talking about myself uh, specifically. So if I go back in time and try to think about how I mastered my native language, which is Hindi in this case, can imagine that I must have listened to the language a lot, right? Even when I couldn't speak, I was listening to the language. And of course, I was not conscious of it. But I listened to the language a lot. My mother would speak to me, my father would speak to me, my brother would speak to me, my relatives would speak to me, right? My neighbors would speak to me. Whosoever would come to my place or whosoever I'm exposed to would speak to me, which is Hindi. So when you listen to a language over and over again, you start breaking it down. Your brain, your mind starts breaking it down, starts deciphering it, and starts giving attaching meanings to those words and phrases, right? And that's how you learn a language. This is the best way of learning a language because this is how you naturally learn a language, right? Um, it is right? And because of the repetition, there are patterns that get formed. And because of the patterns being there, your mind starts picking those patterns and telling you, hey, this is this, it means this, right? Um, so, for example, if I say, Anand, you look dapper today, man. I mean, what is the reason behind you looking dapper, man? You look dapper. You might not know the meaning of the word dapper. Sure, I mean, you probably do. But let's imagine if you don't know the meaning of the word dapper, right? So if I repeat the word over and over again in a certain context, right, you would probably guess the meaning of the word dapper, right? I would say, Anand, you look different today, man. The shirt you're wearing is different in a good way, and overall, you look dapper, man. I mean, come on, wow, man. Girls. So, from the context, you can probably understand that it's probably going to be a positive word. It has a positive connotation. It might mean smart or beautiful. I mean, it's used for girls, but you probably understand what I'm trying to say, right?
Mm.
So, when you listen to something over and over again in a certain context, people just don't speak. They're talking about a certain situation. Text, you start deciphering those words and phrases that you do not understand the meaning of. And that's how you learn a language. So the best way, of course, there are so many ways that you can, so many methods you can adopt, you can use to learn a language, not just English, any language at all, right? So the best way to master a language is to listen to it over and over again, right? So listening to the language, listen to podcasts, native English speakers talking to each other, right? that can be done through podcasts, right? Video podcasts, audio podcasts. And I would suggest that people watch video podcasts because in video podcasts, you can see the speakers, you can see the expression on their face, you can see the connotation of their face, their body language when they utter a certain word, how they feel when they're doing that, right? That way, you can also refer to audio podcasts. You can read uh, books, newspapers, and when you do that, you come across new words and expressions. But there, you have to figure out. It's more hardworking, right? Reading is more hardworking because you have to figure out everything on your own. But when you're watching, it does half the job because the context is self-explanatory, correct? But again, reading is very important. It is essential. It helps you. It helps you know different structures, right? Different patterns, um, different phrases that are used in the English language, right? Different words. You can practice amongst your friends. Whatever you learn on a daily basis, try to inject those things in your life by practicing those things with your friends, right? If you don't have anybody to practice with, speak to yourself, right? So you can listen to the language, you can read, you can write as well. Writing is another great way to improve uh, your language. Whatever you learn, you can practice that. If you're learning different ways of writing a sentence, you can try that, right? You can practice whatever you learn in a very general way about the language, about the grammar with writing. And of course, there are so many other ways as well. It's endless, right? You can do so much. I hope that answers the question.
Yeah. How, how, how would you let go on me?
How would I rate my own English? I actually do not believe in something or somebody being perfect because when you're saying how is your English, of course you can do that. Of course you can divide or you can create multiple levels so that somebody can get they are in terms of being proficient in the language and efficient in the language. But I don't believe that there is something as perfect or 10. How do you decide whether something is 10? Something that you feel is 10 might be might be a 7 for me, might be an 8 for somebody else, or might be a 9 for somebody else. Correct? So, though I understand there are levels like basic, intermediate, advanced, I would say to answer the question, I would say there are still things for me to do. I'm still working on myself. I'm still improving. So, out of 10, I would give myself an 8. Though I am absolutely confident talking to anybody in the world, no matter who the person is. But I'm giving myself an 8 because I believe there are always scope for improvement.
And and go and open new doors and learn from them.
Absolutely, 100%. Absolutely. It's absolutely impossible for somebody not to encounter new words because there's so much to learn, right? And you can't learn everything. It's like an ocean, right? So yes, that happens very often, and I make sure that it happens. That's how I get to, get better.
in company name non work do he
How are non-native English speakers different from native English speakers? I mean, the distinction is very clear, right? Um, Native English speakers, they're native, it's their first language, so it comes naturally to them, right? They're fluent in it, understanding of the language. So to know the language in terms of its rules, syntax, and all the grammatical aspects is very different from understanding the language, having an understanding of the language, right? For example, we understand the Hindi language. I'm talking about all the people who understand Hindi, who are Hindi native speaker, right? It has become natural for them to communicate in the language, right? And the same thing happens with native English speakers, right? Because all their lives they've been listening to the language, they've been speaking, they've been listening, they've been language, right? So they get the understanding of the language, they get the vibe of the language, right? Do they understand the language in terms of the technicalities better than non-natives? That's a question for a debate, because we people are trying to learn the language. So we understand the technicality of the language a little better because we're getting into it, and because we have a lot of competitive exams and exams in general that test us on the language skills, right? So we have to study the language. But you can't say that all the non-native English speakers know the language better than the native English speakers. You can't see that. It's up to the individual.
do be if more any be book and important rather than for solo for or grammar.
See, it becomes or it looks difficult to when they just learn the rules and not practice whatever they learn. Then it's just like a formula or something like that. But it's not as limited as people think it is. I mean, there are patterns behind the rules. There are sciences behind the rules, right? And if you start observing the small things, the nuances, you will be fascinated by them, right? Because I've been for a long time. And understanding the rules is the very first part of the process. Like now you know what the rule is. The second thing, which is the more important, is to practice whatever you've learned, right? So if I've learned what question tags are, right, how they look like, when to use them, and if I'm not practicing them, I'll forget them, right? They're just rules for me. So I have to inject whatever I've learned into my daily day-to-day conversations, right? Otherwise, so this is something a lot of people do, right? Especially non-native English speakers. They get into the grammar a lot, right? But they don't practice whatever they learn. And that is why they're not able to speak well or write well for that matter. So we need to focus more on actually implementing, right? Practicing the grammar rules. And once we start doing that, uh, we start feeling that, it's not as complex or difficult as we think it is.
Be so many in then and how do you feel your own there.
What I do is very personal for me. It's my first love. I always say this. It is my first love. Uh, this is very close to my heart. This is very intimate for me. I love breaking down the language, understanding it, right? Finding out the nuances of the language and then sharing it with you guys whenever that's possible. So I'm not competing with anybody. I feel it's a question that should be for learners to answer, not me. You could be somebody who can answer this question here.
And of your you and how to be of it for and go.
How do I feel about the progress and growth of my channel? Um, it's okay. It's not great, and I know the reason why. Because I haven't been able to commit myself to it because of having a lot on my plate for a couple of years. And I've done that. I am involved in family matters, my business affairs, and other things that I cannot afford to ignore. But very soon, I am planning to like be very focused and dedicated on the channel, and I'm building a studio as well. So going forward, I will have more liberty from my end to give this my all.
Are, are there any
That's some good.
area would you
Are
would
there any
like
specific
invest
areas
in?
you'd like to see improvement in? I mean, of course, you can always improve, right? I can improve the quality of my content. I can improve uh, the editing as well. I can improve the way I present myself in the content. Of course, if I say perfect, everything is the way it is supposed to be, it'd be very ignorant of me to say that. And I know that's not true. Not just for me, for anybody, right? There is nothing such as perfect, right? So I know there are so many things that can be improved, and I am in the direction of making them happen. Hopefully.
Like in May or about you would like to be of audience well.
Love the language. Don't take it as a subject. It's a language, right? Uh, you have to live the language, not take it as a subject. Meaning, uh, you have to inculcate the language in your life. Like you need to speak to yourself. You need to think in English, and whatever you do in life can be about the language, right? So you have to live the language in this way. Take no as an answer. Don't let people decide how good you are, where you can go in life. Um, you keep doing what you are doing, and you can do whatever you want to do in life. Right? I mean, that's a fact because it has happened to me. And growing up, I didn't have the confidence and self-esteem that I have today. It's a process. It takes time, and every single day you're getting better. You're becoming a better version of yourself. You might not be able to see that, right? It might not be visible, but it's happening. The software is being upgraded, and it's happening every single minute, right? When you're practicing, when you're living that life. But you need to have trust in the process. You need to believe the process. and keep doing whatever you have to do and enjoy the process, man. That is the most important. Enjoy whatever you do, whether it's listening, enjoy, right? Whether it's speaking, when you speak, enjoy. Don't think about what people would say about how you speak, how you stand, what your pronunciation is, how your accent is. Don't care about the opinions and judgments. If you really want to be successful, you want to achieve anything in life, you have to turn a blind eye to all these opinions, right, and judgments, and you have to just focus on your goal and keep doing whatever you have to do, and nobody can stop you.
I would also like to mention that I'm I hear life getting party in every. However, your experience in with me, library.
It's been wonderful, Anand. Great technology. I mean, it does wonders, doesn't it? I mean,
Yeah,
great, great thing. And it's been fun talking to you.
yeah, yeah,
I hope you feel the same.
yeah. Thank you so much for the information and engaging here and for joining me on the show.
It is my pleasure, Anand. It is my pleasure. It's been nice talking to you.
Yeah,
It's been wonderful, and I wish you all the luck for your future endeavors. And keep smiling, keep have the smile that you have on your face, and keep spreading the word,
yeah.
keep sharing. All the best for your future endeavors.
And let us take care and bye for now.
You too, Anand. Bye bye. Take care.